It is my honor to introduce today's commencement speaker, one of our distinguished alumni, Ms. Erin Coupe. Erin is an international keynote speaker, executive advisor, and founder and CEO of Authentically EC. She's also the best-selling author of I Can Fit That In, How Rituals Transform Your Life, named to JP Morgan's 2026 NextList. She works with leaders across Fortune 1000 companies and global organizations to strengthen clarity, expand capacity, and sustain high performance in demanding environments. Before founding her business in 2020, Erin spent nearly 2 decades inside publicly traded companies, including Goldman Sachs and CBRE. Today, she's a trusted advisor to organizations from Intuit to Major League Soccer, and is known as one of the most grounded voices in modern leadership, often contributing to global media, including Fast Company, Inc., Business Insider, and The Guardian. She lives in Chicago's North Shore with her husband, Craig, and their 2 sons, who are proud Billiken fans who I hosted at basketball this season. Erin and Craig were married in St. Louis University's St. Francis Xavier Church 15 years ago. A 2003 graduate of St. Louis University's School of Business, where she earned a Bachelor of Science in Management Information Systems, magna cum laude. It's especially meaningful to welcome her back to inspire this next generation. Please join me in welcoming Erin Coupe.
My fellow Billikens, what an honor it is to be back here at St. Louis University, standing before all of you on one of the most significant days of your lives. Before I say anything else, I want to acknowledge the people who made this day possible. To Dean Nickerson and to every faculty and staff member at the Chafeitz School of Business, thank you for investing in these students in ways both seen and unseen. You have showed up, you have sacrificed, you have believed. And to all of the families, the friends, the loved ones, both here and not here, please take a deep breath and really let this moment seep in. To each of you graduating today, what it took to get here matters more than you probably realize right now. The discipline, the late nights, the hard decisions, and the quality of those decisions that you've had to make while no one is watching and no one is applauding. All of it has left a mark on your character. And that goes with you everywhere from here on out. You're standing now at a threshold that feels both exciting and yet terrifying. I remember standing in that exact same place. As a little girl who did not grow up with much, not far from here in St. Charles, Missouri, I had 2 very clear dreams. Number 1 was to work at NASA Mission Control. Newsflash, that didn't happen. The other was to live near the Statue of Liberty. When it came time for college, without much guidance or support, I had no roadmap, but I applied to St. Louis University specifically for aerospace engineering. I was elated when I got in, and I was one of only a handful of women in the program, so it felt extra special to be accepted. A few months into my first semester, a couple of things became pretty obvious to me. First, every single class I had the word engineering in front of it. Engineering calculus, engineering physics. I had not fully appreciated what that meant before arriving, and I had no clue what that word would require of me. Second, I noticed that all of my classes were on the far east side of campus. Meanwhile, there was an entire sprawling campus to the west that I had not yet experienced. But if I'm being very, very truthful, it seemed that all the cute boys hung out on that west side near the quad, which happened to be pretty close to the business school. Look, you work with what you've got. So somewhere in that first semester, I had to get honest with myself. I was putting myself through college, and I also wanted to have the dream experience. The dream that I held on to so tightly no longer felt like mine. That engineering degree wasn't me any longer. That awareness brought immense self-doubt, as you can imagine. I questioned myself, and I wondered, what would it mean to change direction? Had I failed before I had barely even started? And then I made that choice. I walked into the business school, and I met with a counselor. I told her very confidently, I am very smart and I like to be challenged. We talked through options like accounting, marketing, economics, and nothing seemed to click for me until she mentioned management information systems. It was the dot-com era and I saw opportunity, so I said, sign me up. What followed was not what I expected. I found myself programming computer systems, and as it turned out, I was actually pretty good at it. By senior year, I was a teaching assistant for 3 professors. And for those of you old enough in the audience to remember floppy disks, my job was to see if I could break the programs that students created and then saved on those floppy disks. In hindsight, this is a pretty accurate metaphor for how I have approached most things in my life, which is, there is usually a better way. That experience taught me something that still rings true today. Life is not linear. Careers do not follow a straight path. The ability to adapt and to stay open is not a weakness. It is actually one of your greatest advantages, and you are lucky to learn it young. No, like I said, I never worked at NASA, but that pivot to the business school led me to my first role in New York City, where I worked across the Hudson River from the Statue of Liberty. Every time I saw her in the skyline, I thought, the path doesn't always look the way that you thought it would or that you imagine, and yet it can still bring you exactly where you're meant to be. I came to this university as the first in my family to go to college, putting myself through school without a safety net. My mindset was simple. If there is a will, there is a way. Early in my sophomore year, my father passed away after years of severe illness. I was already doing what many of you have done in your own ways, moving forward while carrying more than anyone around you can really see. I had a work-study job in the chancellor's office, Father McGannon, bless his soul, stuffing envelopes and running errands around campus. It was work that felt quite small at the time. But in that space, something happened that I have never forgotten. There were 2 women in that office, Laura and Beth, who worked in development, and they chose to see me not just as a student helper, but as a human being. They engaged with me with real interest and attention. And when my father passed, they made sure that I did not go through that experience alone. Nothing in their job descriptions required that. What guided them was empathy and the willingness to act on that empathy. That spirit is woven into the fabric of SLU, and I was lucky enough to feel it when I needed it most. That, to me, is leadership. The relationship with Laura and Beth continued long after I graduated. For years, whenever I would return to St. Louis to visit family, Laura and Beth and I would meet for meals, exchange stories, and trade ornaments that still hang on my Christmas tree every year. I would fill them in on my early 20s, my life on Wall Street, and what I now lovingly call my Carrie Bradshaw era. And they loved the stories. They were a lot of fun for them to engage with, as I was quite a bit younger and had a lot of fun things to share. But at the same time, I was very busy building an identity that I thought would make me accepted, respected, and valued. I worked relentlessly to become someone I believed the world would take seriously. Eventually, I found myself further and further away from who I actually am. That realization stayed with me, and it became the foundation of the work that I now do, helping leaders and organizations find alignment between who they are, how they lead, and the lives that they are actually living. One of the biggest lessons I have learned is that you can achieve a great deal and still lose yourself in the process. If that happens, there is no version of success at the top that will make up for it. Staying connected to who you are rather than who the world is asking you or telling you to be is what allows success to feel meaningful when you get there. You will be offered a very clear definition of success, from titles to status to the next milestone that you chase, as well as the quiet promise that fulfillment is somewhere just around the corner. You will meet people who have achieved extraordinary things and still wake up every single day wondering, why doesn't it feel the way they thought it would? Your work will matter. It will be how you contribute, how you create value, and how you build a life and a livelihood. and there's real dignity in that. Just don't let it become your whole identity. When what you do is who you are, and that consumes you, you have very little left when it shifts beneath you. Your intuition will speak to you in moments when something doesn't feel right and doesn't align with your values. Listen deeply to that. You have more agency than you know, and you can choose what matters most to you in every season of life. Have the courage to make adjustments, even when it's inconvenient, even when it's scary, even when it would be easier to just keep going. Believe in yourself. You've been able to do that, and you've all just proved it to get right here. So as you step into this next chapter, I will leave you with this. Lead with your character, especially when circumstances are hard. Stay anchored in how you treat others, because the way people feel in your presence will outlast anything you accomplish. Let your courage guide you toward what actually aligns with who you are, even when it's easier to just go chase approval. And please, don't wait to start living your life. Too many people push and prove and accumulate with the plan or the goal to finally live at some distant point in the future. Waiting to arrive at life often means missing out on it while it's actually happening. This next chapter is not about becoming someone new. It is about embracing opportunities for growth, staying connected to who you've always been, and leading your life from that place. The dreams you arrived here with may have already changed shape. That is not failure, it is discernment. The Jesuit tradition has always understood what takes people mostly decades to discover, that a life well lived is not the one that is most optimized, but the one most aligned with your values, your spirit, and your deepest sense of what you are here on earth to do. The form of your dreams will keep changing. That is the nature of a life that is fully engaged with. But underneath every redirection and every moment of honest reckoning with yourself, there is something that doesn't change, the part of you that matters, the part that reaches, and the part that cares. Follow that. When your energy, your actions, and your sense of purpose move together in the same direction, you won't just be more successful, you will feel more whole. From that place, you will be able to give the world something that no title can ever grant you: your full presence, your true leadership, and the irreplaceable light of exactly who you are. Congratulations, class of 2026. Go lead lives that feel like yours. I now welcome Dean Nickerson back to the stage.